Why did you guys decide you were going to write your own book?
We decided to write our own book because we already had all of these notes, and we thought it was time to put them all together in a more sensible way. And we were asked by the publisher to do it. And that was pretty impressive. Yeah.
What was it like working together in partnership to create a book like this?
We work very well together. I think if you were to ask my family, they heard us because we met on Zoom through the pandemic, morning, noon, and night. We just were a really good team together. We understand each other. There would be times that I would read the words and she would listen to make sure that, it was grammatically correct and made sense. And then other times, vice versa. There are some skills that she is absolutely better at than I am. So she concentrated on those and I concentrated on others. And we were able to really, I think, put something together that we're really proud of for our students.
Do you hope that this becomes a model for other classrooms to be able to use to better educate future journalists?
We do hope it's a model for other schools, other universities, other journalists to use, because not only in the classroom, but also once they go into the field themselves. We wrote this with the hope that students would have it as kind of their handbook when they go into their first job, so that instead of asking a dumb question in front of the newsroom, they check the book, refamiliarize themselves with how to format a VOSOT, for example, and do that on their own and move forward.
What's harder, writing a book or giving birth?
Well, writing a book takes longer. Giving birth didn't take as long.
What do you like best about the process of writing a book?
I love writing. I've always loved writing, so it was really fun to just have a conversation with my computer, just as if I was talking to a student. And that's how it's written. It's very conversational, and telling stories, sharing stories, remembering, using a funny, real story as an example of what to do or what not to do. Faith has a story in there that is just, everything in there is true. It happened. We did not make it up. And that's one thing about news, is that sometimes you're befuddled by the things that people do in the world that we end up doing stories on, the bad guys,
What do you like best about this book, you personally?
I like that our former students are part of this. They helped, they're on the cover. They helped us create it. We had classroom work that is used as examples of what to do and what not to do. It's like a living, breathing classroom on paper.
So how did the COVID-19 pandemic affect what you put in the book? What things, because you had to teach differently, right, during the pandemic. So did that influence any of the content that you put in your book, or was that all just, you were gonna do this because at some point this is gonna end?
Right.
But how did that change the week?
You know what? That's a really good question, Kev, because it really did. We were just writing about how to write a VO, how to write a VOSOT, how to put a package together, how to edit. But then COVID happened, and then everything else that happened after that, Me Too, the Black Lives Matter, and it was, the world was happening right in front of us, and with our journalists who are our journalist colleagues who are out there, and we were learning from them. How do you handle reporting a story in a mob, in a crisis, when you're wearing a mask and you still have to go out and cover a story? So we incorporated all of that into this book because it was happening as we were writing.
Well, do you think that because your book was adjusted to such, I guess, crisis-like situations, that the students post-crisis would be easier adjusted? Because, if I can handle working in a pandemic, it should be a lot easier when things settle down and get back to normal.
I hope so. That's the whole reason why we wrote this book. We wanted our students to know what the real world is, really know, so that they're ready for it. And so they hear stories from people who went through it. We didn't make it up. They know what it was like. We try to paint the picture. And so they can be better prepared.
Take me through the process of how this book even came about.
Well, Faith was reviewing someone else's journalism book, and the publisher was asking her about journalism. And Faith says, well, my colleague is already starting to write a book, because I had been writing a book and then putting it away, writing a book, putting it away for a couple of years. And she said, well, my colleague's already writing something. And so the publisher said, well, could you have something for us maybe in a couple of weeks? Faith said, sure. And she contacted me and said, we're writing a book together and we need to have the first draft in about a month. Okay, we'll just bang it out. And that's how it all started.
Do you feel like this book kind of forever made you guys soul sisters, forever entangled with each other's lives?
I think so. I think we were probably there already. The great news is we were certain it wasn't going to break us apart, and it didn't. We think very similarly, although we are different in some ways, and that's good because we can look at a chapter or a topic or even a sentence a little differently and not get offended by each other. We look to each other for advice all the time and respect each other greatly.
Between you and Miss Faith Sidlow, who would misspell the most words?
Me. I think I am the one who might misspell or grammatically use a word incorrectly. She is really good at grammar.
Can you talk about the process of getting funds for the book?
We did not, we don't have any money coming from anyone else in terms of the book. So we spent our own time, that's really what we spent the money on, to write the book and then bring it to the publisher. And they said yes, and that's it. There is no money that we needed to borrow or get sponsored for to write the book. We just needed our families to be accepting that we were on the computer a lot and we were not engaged in family events a lot as we were trying to put this together. No, this is not, I have learned this is not a money-making venture. And it never really was intended to be, although I thought it might make something, but no. It's totally about having real-world examples for our students. That's totally what it's about, so that they're more armed and they hopefully make fewer mistakes than I did when I was live on the air.
Do you plan on doing an audiobook, or do you not do those for textbooks?
I would love to do audiobooks, and I would, if doing this as an audiobook would be helpful, then absolutely, we would do that.
Audio video book.
Yeah. Well, we have QR codes in there so that you automatically do have video if you want. We've got examples of stories. We have examples of live, raw video that happened to show how to put a VOSOT together based on what a Fox 26 photographer found at 3 in the morning for breaking news. So there is video in the book. You just have to use a QR code.
In terms of subjects that you feel like students have the most trouble with, which subject?
VOSOT.
VOSOT.
Why is a VOSOT so challenging for students? But it is. So the way we worked the writing of that chapter, I think it's chapter 8, right? Aren't you in there? We use my husband as for lighting. But no, we hope that if the students really read the chapter on VOSOTs, that they will get it better. We hope.